Some of us are outwardly successful, but inwardly feel unhappy and living a life lacking in purpose and meaning. The Necktie and the Jaguar by Carl Greer can help you discover what's important to you and how to go for it. For more information or to purchase the book, visit carlgreer.com. That's CarlGreer.com.
And then maybe we've applied some of those and it's going well. And then we do this state of adaptation. Adaptation is really maybe when it's not a full recovery. It's not reversing. It's not the freedom I'm experiencing now. It's where we've molded or made our life smaller to fit what we're capable of doing.
Cue music. Places, everybody places. We're starting in 3, 2.
Welcome to the Autoimmune Hour, where we look at the rise of autoimmune disorders. I've brought together top experts that range from doctors, specialists, nutritionists, researchers, and even those recovering from autoimmune to bring you the latest, most up-to-date information about autoimmunity and how to live your life uninterrupted.
Thank you for joining us here on the Autoimmune Hour with Sharon Sayler. Always seek sound legal, medical, and or professional advice regarding any problems, conditions, and any of the recommendations you see, hear, or read here on the Autoimmune Hour, Understanding Autoimmune, and Life Interrupted Radio. Join the Autoimmune Hour's Courage Club. Sign up now at understandingautoimmune.com. Now, back to your host, Sharon Sayler.
Welcome, everyone, to the Autoimmune Hour. I'm Sharon Sayler from SharonSayler.com. And oh my goodness, we are here with an amazing guest. You know what? She dropped in on my website, Understanding Autoimmune, and told me her story under the Be Your Guest part. And you guys know that we've had many people do that. And I was just talking to her, getting to know her. And I said, you know, you've got such an engaging story. Let's just hit record and do a show. So this is a pre-record. Sharing it with you now. And so let me introduce you to her now. Her name is Darlene Turriff, and she is the author of the book, Mastering the Protocol, 10 Success Strategies to Reverse Autoimmune and Heal Your Life Forever. And that really intrigued me. And when I got her on the Zoom here to chat with her, meet her, and talk to her about her story, I said, hey, let's just hit record, because we are both absolutely passionate about the topic of, are you making your diagnosis your identity? And oftentimes that's not our fault. And Darlene, and we're talking about that's oftentimes not our fault. We might propagate it, but sometimes it's embedded in us. So thanks for being on the show and being game to do an impromptu interview here. Welcome to the show, Darlene.
You don't know me all that well. The people who do know I can talk about this all day long. It's bring the awareness. Let's because there's a way to move through it, right? So we were talking about the other side. There's another side.
Absolutely. Let's talk though a little bit. Share a little, just quickly, your story and what brought you to this point where you had that realization of like, oh my gosh, at what point is this becoming my life, and how do I make sure that my diagnosis isn't my life?
Okay, so I think the point was for over 2.5 years, I was bedridden, literally. So I was like 260 pounds and I needed assistance to go to the bathroom. Like I had trouble walking, my blood pressure was so low. I had over 64 symptoms. The only activity I did for those 2.5 years was go to doctor's appointments. So yeah, it was like zero quality of life. I think before, it was almost 20 years before that when I first started having my big, I call it my state of concession, where I had a health thing. So I didn't understand it then, but now I know it was a full-blown autoimmune, and they put me on Synthroid. So I was 20 years, I was in and out, not able to fully maintain work because I would have a relapse and be on sick leave. So that was kind of my journey up until about 8 years ago, when it's like, okay, I started to get really serious about where my power was.
Was there a moment though? Was there like an aha moment, or somebody said something? What caused that moment to happen?
I share story, and with my daughter's permission. I was a foster mom and still am, but we got to a point where we needed to set a boundary with her and had to ask her to leave the house. And the only way I could do it was to sever ties with that relationship. It was such a powerful moment. And I think that's what brought my eyes around my identity as a rescuer, as a mom. I had to break it all for my own well-being. I could not survive. And honestly, it's not an embarrassment to share this, but the only way I was willing to do it was I was actually doing it for my husband. He was broken in that situation. And even then, I wouldn't act in my own self-interest. I only took that action because I saw what it was doing to him. I never even could acknowledge what it was doing to me. But that was it. That was the moment I learned to stand up for myself and started making myself a priority. And it was, it wasn't an overnight thing. It took a good year and a half, I think, of working that muscle, understanding what a priority is. And then I started to work, diet after that. And so I would say about 3 years for me to go from that point of broken, bedridden to, launching everything I do now.
Wow. But bravo for that moment. I mean, so many people let those moments pass, and instead of embracing them, it just goes and you jumped in both feet. And I've often said, even if the reason we're doing it is for someone else, there's always this spillover effect that it affects our own lives too. I've met many people that said, well, I did it for my family member, in your case, your spouse, I did it for my child or something along those lines. And yet it has this wonderful spillover effect that you embraced it. Now, you've written this wonderful book called Mastering the Protocol, 10 Success Strategies to Reverse Autoimmune and Heal Your Life Forever. My goodness, that's a really big statement there. Share with us one of your favorite strategies out of those 10.
Well, I have 4. So my solution is about 4 things. So one is the diet. I think as autoimmune, we have to be realistic about that. Number 2 for me is what I'm calling lifestyle. So that to me is your biggest impact, and it's kind of the measuring stick for how your goal, like how to get your full recovery. What's the plan? So people often tell me I have both sides of the brains. I'm extremely practical, but I'm extremely spiritual, creative, and all that. So my practical side, we need to measure things. So I think about the business acronym of SMART, that it's specific and it's measurable and it's attainable. I don't remember the other one, relevant and timely, that our lifestyle, our choices. So what I mean by lifestyle is our choices and our priorities will reflect our mindset, will reflect our purpose, will reflect our wellness. Because if we're not willing to prioritize ourselves, so that gets me to my moment of truth was until I actually took the action, not what I believed, not what I learned, it was take the action of putting me for everybody. That's it. So the lifestyle is that component. So we have the diet and the lifestyle choices. That's where our stressors are. Our mindset. That's for me the fun, the fun work. It's about uncovering that old identity, right? What do I need to believe to create all this life that's on the other side of autoimmune? And for me, the secret sauce is the purpose. So I think my favorite thing is you need to be fully attached to your purpose. And that takes a lot of courage and vulnerability and a place of safety to do that.
Oh, beautiful, beautiful. And knowing that your purpose may change, I like to throw that idea out there. Sometimes people say, but my purpose all along has been XYZ. And then I got the autoimmune condition and now my purpose is gone. And I'm off. My purpose radically changed in 2014 after my diagnosis too. I mean, would I have started the Autoimmune Hour if I had not gotten the diagnosis, no, I didn't really understand what autoimmune was prior to that. So I like to say, allow yourself and open yourself up to finding purpose. Now, you said that you started this based out of deep compassion and love for your husband. What allowed the switch over to become compassionate and loving to yourself? I mean, sometimes I see people still stuck in doing it for someone else, yet you were able to internalize that.
Yeah, I resisted. Again, I have to be honest. So I worked with a therapist for a while and I resisted. I think the biggest question was, I also am a theologian, so it goes back to a little bit of the Christian history, but this concept of service versus sacrifice. And I had a huge sacrifice identity. So what was the thing that moved me from that sacrifice was that, hey, I have a bigger service to do. And for me to walk into that service, I need to put myself first. And I had the experience, the first time the experience, because I did it for my husband, I was also doing it for myself. So it wasn't the reason I did it, but the experience, the action was that I did it for myself. And I didn't die. I became very broken. It challenged, like I said, that, cutting off your ties with your child is a moment of being broken, but I survived. I want to jump ahead. Like she and I have a great, we both went away. We both did our own healing and we came back. So now we have a relationship better than ever. But it's that compassion was understanding that I was not the total sum of what I did, not my actions. Just me, I have a gift. I have something I need to give the world. And in order to do that, I need to view myself as God sees me. I need to just be where I am. How that's received with the world is not my responsibility. Where, I really went from this sacrifice mindset, moving over to the service. And in service, there's no place for sacrifice. It's a lovely, lovely spot to be. It's filled with compassion.
Beautiful. Beautiful. We need to take a quick commercial break. And when we come back, we'll talk more with Darlene about her book, Mastering the Protocol. And we'll talk about her new book that she's working on. So we'll be right back.
Life Interrupted Radio will return after these messages from our sponsors. It's great sponsors like these that keep this show coming to you every week. Be sure and stop by lifeinterruptedradio.com to learn more.
Your conscious lifestyle on steroids. OMTimes Radio. IOM FM.
Hello, I'm Lisa Berry. Join me every Monday at 1 p.m. Eastern Time for Light on Living. A chance to see new, hear different, and feel more as I shine the spotlight on all the ways to lighten the load of life's challenges. Light on Living is your link to that new way you're looking for, that new understanding that will enhance your life, and that positive connection that will support your growth. So join me and you'll gain insight and start to see things in a new way that motivates you.
OMTimes Magazine is one of the leading online content providers of positivity, wellness, and personal empowerment. A philanthropic organization, their net proceeds are funneled to support worldwide charity initiatives via Humanity Healing International. Through their commitment to creating community and providing conscious content, they aspire to uplift humanity on a global scale. OMTimes. Co-creating a more conscious lifestyle.
Listen and imagine. It takes 5 seconds to send a text, and for those 5 seconds, you're driving blind. Life is worth more than a text. Stay alive. Don't text and drive.
Visit StopTextStopWrecks.org, a message brought to you by the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration, Project Yellow Light, Noise, and the Ad Council.
Hi, this is Sharon. And of course you know me from here on the Autoimmune Hour. Maybe you don't know I'm also an author. My latest book is for kids. It's Pinkie, Chenille, and the Rainbow Hunters, a winner of a 5-star reader's favorite review. It's perfect for your early reader and a great bedtime story for your young adventurers. Check it out over at pinkiechenille.com. That's PinkyChenille.com. See you there. Welcome back, everyone, to the Autoimmune Hour. I'm Sharon Sayler from SharonSayler.com. And tonight we're here with Darlene Turriff. And she reached out to me via the website Understanding Autoimmune and suggested that we should meet. And so we did. And we're doing a pre-record right now because as we were chatting, I said, hey, this is such good conversation. Let's just turn on the record. So she's the author of Mastering the Protocol, 10 Success Strategies to Reverse Autoimmune and Heal Your Life Forever. And one of the things that we've been sharing about are, I'll say, the things that the White Coat Authority rarely talk about that. And that's who we are and our past traumas, our past ways of being, and how that can affect our recovery and our ability to thrive regardless of a diagnosis. And I firmly, after all my years of doing this, believe that's not just an autoimmune diagnosis, that sometimes we can take any kind of diagnosis as our identity. And I know you're working on a book right now, Darlene, about identity called Autoimmune Identity Solution, and looking forward to that. And one of the things that we share, and I was so passionate about that, I mentioned to you just recently, was that I was with Tamara Green and Dave Dashinger on their beautiful show, Loving Meditations. They've been guests on the show. And we had a wonderful discussion on, are you making your diagnosis your identity? And this really caught my eye when you were talking about it too, because I don't think it's talked about enough. It really needs to be talked about. So what was the moment when you realized this is my, I'm noticing that I made at some point in time my diagnosis, my identity, and now that why you creating this to be your new passion, your new purpose?
Yeah, I didn't actually put words to it until I started helping others with their autoimmune journey. So it's been about 3 years now that I've been coaching other women through their products. So that's where the first book came from. And in the process of helping them do that, the one thing that really, really stood out was their belief that they couldn't get past it. Their belief that it was it was a part of who they are. So I came up with this concept of, before the autoimmune identity solution, was this autoimmune identity cycle that we're stuck in. And this cycle is when we have an external focus of seeking solutions outside ourselves. So inside the cycle, there's 3 states that I like to talk about, which the state of concession. So in concession, you can't ignore your health, right? That we all have that moment. And then why I've called it a cycle is because every time we relapse, it's like, oh no, I've done it again. Then we move into the state of investigation. And I know I was in an investigation forever, just everywhere, looking everywhere, listening. And I'm betting a lot of the listeners here are looking for solutions, right? We're looking for solutions. And then maybe we've applied some of those and it's going well. And then we do this state of adaptation. And adaptation is really maybe when, like, for me, that's not a full recovery. It's not reversing. It's not the freedom I'm experiencing now. It's where we've molded or made our life smaller to fit what we're capable of doing. And so all that, you get stuck in, it just keep going back in circles because you're susceptible to external stress. You're susceptible to, what the doctors say, but all that, it's not something that's happening to you. We don't change those facts. It's that we have an identity attached to that cycle, where our external identity. And then what I call it, you move over the authority gap and you move into your internal solution, right? You start identifying with all the things that you have power over. And everything that we actually have power over is internal. So that is a part of the solution. When you start attacking both your investigation, everything, by taking actions on what you do have power over, I found that was the biggest helper out there. It was definitely the thing that shifted for me.
Yeah, absolutely. It's amazing to me once we realize what we do have power over. And one of my favorite things that people kind of shudder when they think about this is, how do you listen to the authorities in your life? I like to call it white coat authority. And I currently have an amazing medical team. And yet they all understand that I'm there to gain the knowledge that they have so I can heal myself. I remember my rheumatologist a few years ago, I had known I was doing much better. And 3 years before, they said, Sharon, you're in remission. And I said, thank you. I've known that for a long time. They looked at me and said, well, now that doesn't mean you're healed. And I said, look, guys, I don't want to hear any of this stuff, because what I'm doing is working. And reminding them, like, please don't embed your beliefs about my health into me, because you've got this, white coat authority thing going on. And taking the courage to really listen and respect what they say, because they absolutely saved my life, but then not taking it on as my identity. I tell a story about, look, you can have someone come into your world and say, hey, you have, and they give you this diagnosis. And if they have authority, you can think, oh my goodness, that's who I am. But it's that word have. So what if somebody came in and said, Sharon, you have cockroaches? Well, of course, I don't want those. Of course. Yes. Okay. I agree, Mr. Exterminator. Yes, you found that, whatever. That doesn't mean that they're part of me, nor do I want to keep them. So I like to look and make sure that when we're using this word have and somebody's pronouncing something, that I always place it in that place of cockroaches and finding the right extermination, not in my identity file. And I always encourage people to understand the difference of when someone's telling you information, how you take it in and where you put it in your mental filing cabinet is really important.
100%, I agree. Yeah, I can't say it any better than that. That's a very good reflection of what got me over the gap, as I call it. It's when I stopped giving away my authority to others, and then made the decision that I am well. And
authority to heal yourself, I think, is the important thing. The autonomy to heal yourself. That everyone, even my amazing medical team that I have now, we're all in agreement. I'm the one that has to put in the work. And that work is not only the physical work, diet, sleep, exercise, all of those. It is the mental work about putting myself first. And Darlene and I are talking about that because I want her to reflect with us this idea of, sometimes people say you put yourself first and the word selfish comes up. I want that word completely. I said, there's nothing wrong when thinking of yourself first. Because in my mind, if I'm not well, how can I be of service to others?
I agree. That was my turning point, was the service. The biggest S word, that I actually, when you're putting things into action, is schedule. That's where you get challenged, where it hurts. If you can, I just happen to have my agenda in front of me, but it begins with how you schedule your time. I have this concept of bringing things to stress neutral. Like, stress neutral is the first step to engaging your body's natural healing ability, right? I feel I'm in partnership with my body, and together we're healing. But even in stress neutral, I'm not in optimal healing. I need to put in all those things you're talking about. So definitely my mindset. But it shows up in the most practical way in your world. It's about prioritize. What I love saying is that it's just as easy to have healing habits as it does have the habits that keep you stuck in your cycle, in your autoimmune cycle.
I'll argue that a little bit because yes, physically, it's just as easy for me to cut broccoli as it is to, go get some fast food. But I'm thinking that if sometimes I have found that in the recovery process, what we're doing is like, it's good enough here. I don't want to go back to where I was. And sometimes we can get stuck in this mindset of, I'm way better than I was a year ago, 6 months ago. Maybe I'll just stay here because I get comfort out of my cookie.
Yeah, and that is a super major challenge. So for me, I like to say I have to prioritize the convenience in my life, right? So part of the work and why the first book was on the protocol, the full autoimmune protocol is about looking at all those little things. And the real goal of the work, a lot of people get stuck and think it's about elimination. I'm not the real work is in the reintroductions. So it's about trusting that your body's healing and trying again. So of course, yeah, you can have cookies, but are you listening? Are you having those cookies from what your body is telling you, right? Are the ingredients in those cookies, or what I call treat foods, are they being helpful or hurtful? So yeah, those are terminology, because you and I seem to be very passionate about language. I'm hugely passionate about language. So instead of thinking, my mindset wasn't that I need a cookie, my mindset is that I need a treat, and I'm allowed a treat. And I redefine what treat is for me, because if it's not nutritional for my body, that's my first priority. So the same way I prioritize my health first, in my food, the first priority is nutrition or my helpful foods, but I still get to have treats inside that. So things that don't trigger a negative response in my body. So I have my diet, it's 8 years now since I started the protocol, and my diet is really full. I eat delicious food, but convenience for me is something I actually need to schedule so that my life can be convenient, grab and go. So I still believe in grab and go. We're a grab and go society. No one's going to do it for me, though. I need to have all that stuff ready and easy, which allows me to live a very full, active life. I don't get to go to drive-through. And I'm okay with that. My identity is okay with that.
And I think that's the part about awareness and putting yourself first. I too I have grab and go ready, but it's stuff that I've taken the time, usually on a weekend, to put together and have for the rest of the busy week. And I think that's the critical part, is putting aside this idea of selfishness and putting ourselves first and having it all set up to where life is easy. And I still live the life that I was. I've just made adaptations to how I'm doing it to make sure that the body stays healthy. And I want to point out too that I think Darlene will agree with me here. This doesn't happen overnight, okay? I mean, it took me a while to give up my comfort foods that were not serving me and find new comfort foods that will serve me. And my body didn't heal overnight. The skin condition and the muscle weakness didn't disappear overnight. So just give yourself plenty of space and grace as you continue to improve, and I think celebrate those small wins that you continue to put into your success strategies.
Yes, I'm a huge believer in slow. Our bodies, if we have autoimmune, love slow. So even when you're doing something good for yourself, anything too sudden, too radical is a shock. And so slow is how I got better. It really, really works. But yeah, I do. I love my life. It's easy because it all became a habit, right? Over time, I built all these habits that everything's automatic for me. So nothing about my lifestyle is a struggle anymore. And on top of it, it all continues to support my ongoing healing. And I want that. I want that for everyone. I want them to know it is so doable. And it's doable one tiny decision at a time. You don't have to do it all overnight.
As you're thinking about that one tiny decision, I'm sure it differs for everybody, but all your client success stories, has there been one where they said, wow, that was the turning point for me?
For them, the magic is in the schedule. I and the other thing they talk to me is that I'm always saying, okay, it's time to give up the party in your mouth. So one of my other life skills is that I was a personal chef and things. So it makes it a lot more fun. I said, okay, start with something you already love. Start with something you're already doing. Now let's tweak it. And just deciding that you're going to just scratch everything and start new, too hard. Our brains are not wired for that. You want to modify, and you want to pick one tiny thing. So that's what I do recommend to my clients. And the biggest mindset thing is the idea that they put one change into their schedule 1 week at a time, and you don't add something new until that first thing is, I love your word, embedded, right? It is a part of who you are. You've allowed your palate to shift. You've allowed everything to taste good, and you have all the ingredients in your house. Everybody in the family is adapted. Okay, now it's time for another one. And for me, my biggest strategy is to get all those things in place if you're doing the protocol, and only commit to the last section of the protocol when you've got a really good supportive habit system going already. To me, after they've failed the protocol a bunch of times is really it. I focus a lot on how to apply a protocol in your life. And the solution is slow. It really is. I have couple of clients that are super aggressive and they do really well. But no, I'm doing it all right away. I really find that extremely unusual and usually not practical. These people were not super sick at the beginning, whereas I know what it's like to be bedridden. And if I can do it with even my disability had run out. So if I wasn't able to stand for 10 minutes a day, that was my first thing I did. That was my first goal. Stand for 10 minutes a day in the kitchen trying to prepare, and then I didn't go, when I felt stronger, I didn't go stand for 20 minutes a day. I then stood 10 minutes twice a day. I have a true understanding of being broken by autoimmune. And I really, if I could get there with no money and no strength and feeling broken, then I'm really passionate that you can too. It's about setting an attainable goal that you can build on and build on.
Yeah, absolutely. We need to take our final commercial break. And when we come back, we'll talk some more with Darlene about her journey in mastering autoimmune and her book called Mastering the Protocol, 10 Success Strategies to Reverse Autoimmune and Heal Your Life Forever. So we'll be right back.
Your conscious lifestyle on steroids. OMTimes Radio. IOM-FM.
Change and growth are part of natural life and also part of your spiritual life. Everyone needs support and guidance, especially during life passages. Upgrade yourself with the OMTimes Experts program. With OMTimes Experts, you have access to the best intuitive coaches, spiritual teachers, counselors, astrologists, and oracles. Our team was carefully selected so you can trust. Find out more at experts.omtimes.com.
Grab a cup of tea or a glass of wine and tune in for inspired conversations with publisher Linda Joy. on Tuesdays at 2 p.m. Eastern. Linda creates sacred space for leading female luminaries, empowering authors, heart-centered female entrepreneurs, coaches, and healers. A soulful venue where guests openly share the fears and obstacles they've overcome, wisdom and lessons learned, and the personal journey that led them to the transformational work they do in the world. Inspired conversations to empower you on your path to authentic, soulful living.
Welcome back, everyone. From that quick commercial break, I'm here with Darlene Turriff, and she is the author of Mastering the Protocol, 10 Success Strategies to Reverse Autoimmune and Heal Your Life Forever. And we've just been talking about our own stories in recovering from autoimmune, as well as how to optimize our life. I love this idea that she and I share. We use different words for it, but to me, I always talk about optimizing one thing. As she says weekly, I want to delve into that because one of my things is optimize just a little thing. It could be anything once a day, and optimize and practice that once a day. To me, I think maybe it's the size of our challenges to each other. Standing for 10 minutes when I was at my sickest could have also taken me a long time to learn how to do. So what about these little goals where optimizing just a little thing every day? And sometimes it was just saying something of gratitude. It was as simple as that, where my thing today is I am just going to be grateful that every time I stand up and can make it across the room, I'm going to say a little prayer of gratitude.
I love it. That is perfect. My favorite thing that I challenge people to do is actually unschedule one thing today. Unschedule one thing. Create some space. Healing requires space. It's just the truth of it. And then how you can fill that space. Then that gets into the really fun, great stuff of what you do. So definitely, if we can talk a little bit about stress. So to bring yourself to stress neutral, you need to undo one of your priorities. And that can be really hard when you don't have enough energy to do what you have to do that day. So it's really a paradox that in healing, you have to actually do less to get more. It's a hard concept to attach ourselves to, because this is when we're going to get that, we're going to be challenged by something's going to show up. Either, maybe your child forgot their lunch and you have to take it to school or something. You will be challenged on your new boundaries. So the first boundary for me is schedule in some blank space into your daily calendar. Weekly is just how we assess how we did daily. So for me, it's very important to measure, we measure through the measurable, which is our commitment, our promise, and our action or inaction. But the purpose for measuring, the purpose for scheduling is to challenge our identity on that. So why did I not keep my commitment for this? And why did I not do that? So really challenging that thinking. Oh, because, I didn't prioritize.
That's the critical thing for me, was those moments where I realized to learn to prioritize myself at very basic levels, and realize, take a critical look at why am I not doing that in the first place? That was hard. That was hard because I had all these, as you mentioned too, and I want people to understand this idea of not just external, but external things that I had placed as higher priorities than my own health. And it was that moment of insight for me of realizing, if I'm not healthy, how can I help anyone else? So I do want to talk about your new book that's coming up, that you're in the process of writing now, called Autoimmune Identity Solution. So let's talk on that. We just have about 13 minutes left or so. So let's talk a little bit about this, because I mentioned it in the opening too. This is one of the things I'm passionate about, is talking about it. As we talk about identity and how we can make it, and we've briefed over it, but what are some of the other solutions that you found? I want people to be able to go, oh, I get it now. Because sometimes people say, well, I'm not doing that. And yet upon reflection, they realize, oh my goodness, how many times do I use this as an excuse?
Yeah. So definitely is watch your language. So that will be a reflection of what your identity is or your mindset. 3 of the limiting beliefs, and first I want to qualify it. For me, a limiting belief is just a belief that's keeping you that's or out of alignment with your purpose, right? It's I think one of the greatest things we can give to ourselves, some of the solutions, is leave judgment out of it. We need to learn to assess things versus judging them. Leaving judgment was a big part of me finding my compassion for myself, judging my body, right? And then it comes back to that identity that I am sick versus I am well. How do you stay in the mindset of wellness when physically you're manifesting, I have fibromyalgia today. I can't do that. I've had a migraine for 4 years now. It's hard to move yourself into this other identity. But one of the things is when you leave the judgment out of it, it's, okay, well, I can be well if I'm not assigning the judgment along with that identity. I'm not going to try to qualify wellness with, yeah, but the yeah, buts. We can leave the yeah, buts. Well, what would it be when you're so tired, when you have the brain fog, all those things we experience? To transcend that into a different identity is we need to watch that language, not to attach ourselves to things we say. So that first moment when you wake up in the morning, not to ignore either. It's like, oh, body, yes, I'm checking in with you. I see there's pain and stuff. But today I am well. And those, it seems simple, but it was crucial. It was crucial. I am well. I don't allow myself to have conversations in my head with my pain. The minute I'm aware that the minute I'm mentally aware that I've told myself, ooh, that hurts, I have a whole system to get back out of that thinking, because I don't want to be focusing on what I am right now. I want to be focusing on who I am. I am well.
I like that distinction of what's going on versus who I am, and making sure that people are really clear that those are not the same thing. I think oftentimes people confuse those two in their minds. And so one of the things I'm a big fan of, and I'd like to get your take on it, is, and it's helped me a lot, is journaling. I'm a huge fan of, because I don't know about you, in the moment, I think I am never going to forget this moment, and then I do. But I like to write just a few things. It's not great prose, but I like to write a few things so I can go back and reflect. And one of the things that I found most helpful is writing on the right-hand side of the page, leaving the left-hand side of the page blank, and then going back and reflecting. The person who taught me this had a system for it. I'm not that systematic, but I can go back a few weeks or months or years and go, oh my goodness, look how far you've come, Sharon. And that reinforces my own motivation to keep me going forward, is because just reminding myself, because a lot of the wins, interestingly enough, whatever reason, I tend to file them away in the done folder. And sometimes the memories of just, oh, wow, that recovery process was painful, or this or that, are the ones that stay a little more current in my mind until I read how far I've come. And then I'm like, wow, okay, I can see it now.
Yes, I do journal. I find I journal less now. And yeah, on the practical side, again, uses the agenda, schedule it. So that's why when you were talking daily, weekly, I evaluate at the end of the day, but then I evaluate weekly, I evaluate monthly, and I evaluate quarterly and yearly. I'm a huge proponent of, it's important you don't judge, but we cannot measure. We have to be able to measure our progress. The challenge with the mindset is, and again, it's just human nature, that we are always focused on where we are not, right? But healing your body actually requires you to be fully present. So you can heal faster, in my opinion, when you look at where you are right now and not where you're not or where you're going, and that tool that you just talked about is looking at the distance from where you were and where you are now is invaluable, not for the results, but for the identity. I am a person. I am someone making progress. I am. All those I am statements become super powerful when we start recognizing and building different new goals into the plan. You need to build on top of this identity, this language you're using for yourself. I can do this. Yeah, I'm not where I'm going, but I have now in place a whole system to get there. Because if I keep going at this rate, it's going to be amazing. So for me,
that's what people need to understand, is this idea of, they say, well, if Sharon, I'm just doing one little thing today, but that builds on the next little thing, and it builds on the next little thing. It's not like they're not just singular. Understanding that each time you lay another block down in your progress, that you're actually getting further and further along of the path that you want to be healing. So to me, it's interesting how people can get stuck in like, oh, but that's only one little thing. It's exponential.
If you can imagine, if you do what I suggest and you take one thing out of your schedule and then you put one thing in that's going to promote your healing, and the crazy part, or the magic of when you combined everything that's possible in the universe, is it's like building blocks, but it's more like compound interest.
Yeah, exactly. It's exponential.
It's so exponential. There'll be a point where there's such a momentum, you can't go backwards.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Well, Darlene, we're just about out of time here. I want everybody to know, where can they find you and your work and get your book? And any final thoughts you'd like to share with us that we haven't had a chance to go over?
Yeah, thank you, Sharon. My book right now is just available on Amazon. So just either under Darlene Turriff or Mastering the Protocol. It's on both Amazon.com and .ca. I'm in Canada. I think my word of wisdom is really believe you can do it. That identity that someone's going to come in to rescue you, or that you're going to go back to where you were. I want you to think about that maybe where you're going is way better than going back. I look at my autoimmune now as the most amazing gift I ever received. And the gift of compassion, but the gift of, I would have never lived my life of service that I'm living now. I would have never shown the ripple effect, not only for my life, but what it did for my daughter, what it did for my family, what it did for my mother. Like, there was such a ripple effect when I stood up for me. So many other people in my life began standing up for themselves. So no, it's not selfish. I promise you it's not selfish. It's leadership, and it's really stepping into your purpose. I think that's what we're here for, is to live more fully, and we need strong bodies to do.
Fantastic. Thank you. And do you have a website to share with us?
Oh, yes, DarleneTurriff.com.
Okay, can you spell your last name other time. And if people are just...
It's TURRIFF. So TURRIFF.
Fantastic. That's DarleneTurriff.com. We'll have it over at understandingautoimmune.com as well. And thank you, Darlene, for reaching out. And it's been just a delight to talk to you some more, because we both share this idea that, yes, it is a diagnosis, but it can be overcome, and optimizing your life all day, every day is what brings you back to that new place. And I agree with you that I would not be doing what I'm doing in the world right now if it had not been for my diagnosis in 2014 as well. And so, everyone, thank you for joining us. I so love you being part of the community, and stay well. Check us out over at understandingautoimmune.com, as well as Facebook. It's Understanding Autoimmune there, and Twitter is the Autoimmune Hour. And join me next week for another brand new episode. Have a great week, whatever your adventures. Until then, enjoy.
The information provided on the Autoimmune Hour, Understanding Autoimmune, and Life Interrupted Radio, including the websites understandingautoimmune.com and lifeinterruptedradio.com, plus social media, is for educational purposes only. What you read, hear, and see on the Autoimmune Hour, Understanding Autoimmune, and Life Interrupted Radio, and its websites, and other media outlets is based on experience only. The information should never be used for any legal, diagnostic, or treatment purposes. Always seek sound legal, medical, and or professional advice regarding any problems, conditions, and any of the recommendations you see, hear, or read here on the Autoimmune Hour, Understanding Autoimmune, and Life Interrupted Radio.
Hi, this is Sharon, and of course you know me from here on the Autoimmune Hour. Maybe you don't know I'm also an author. My latest book is for kids. It's Pinkie, Chenille, and the Rainbow Hunters, a winner of a 5-star Reader's Favorite review. It's perfect for your early reader and a great bedtime story for your young adventurers. Check it out over at pinkiechenille.com. That's PINKYCHENILLE.com. See you there.